Welcome everybody to our Cooking for Wellness, sponsored by Giant Eagle and Central Ohio Urology Group. We are very excited to present tonight excellent flavor and nutrients celebrating National Egg Day. And we have with us tonight Chef Jason Johnson in our community kitchen and dietitian Lori Coleman, and I am Darlene, the program manager at Cancer Support Community Central Ohio. So Chef, which one of the recipes are you going to get started with tonight?
Well, guess what? I know it's not supposed to be like this, but we're going to start with dessert. I mean,
life is unpredictable.
I know that goes against all commonalities, but we're going to start with the good stuff first.
Good idea.
But we're going to start with this wonderful peach custard pie, and I know most of you that are on here had an opportunity to taste and see. So now you get to kind of see how it was made and how easy it is, and how you can, if you really enjoyed it, how you can make this at home. This is the best time of year, what we call stone fruits. So your peaches, nectarines, cherries, apricots, those are all called stone fruits. And they're very prevalent in this time of year, your late April, May, June. So you'll start seeing these in your local grocery store being heavily marketed and kind of out in the forward. Your farmers markets, you'll start really seeing those come out there also. So this is just another way that you could take advantage of using one of those great and don't have to feel really guilty about it. So I'm using some fresh peaches. Definitely, if you can't find any or don't have any, if you have some frozen peaches, I'm sure they'll work very well. I'm saying frozen rather than canned because frozen, and Lori, I know you can piggyback on this. Frozen fruits or vegetables usually are what we call flash frozen. So they're usually picked ripe, quality, and then they are cool, immediately frozen. So you're still getting a lot of the great nutrients and a lot of the great flavors and things like that. So if you can't get fresh, then at least get frozen. If all else fails, the last resort would be canned.
Yeah, right. I agree with you. There's some foods that are higher in nutrients when they're frozen because they're frozen at peak. The idea is somehow if you leave that fresh fruit or vegetable, even for a day in the fridge, it degrades to a point where the frozen would have been more nutritious. So in the pies that I made, Jason, I did use frozen, and I thought they worked really well. Either way should work.
Right. So you have your options here, and that's what we want everyone to be able to feel comfortable with, is that even if you have a recipe or we show you a recipe, being able to understand how you can make alternatives and what your best options are, so you don't feel like you're kind of pigeonholed into one way only, and if you don't have that, then you can't do it. We always say this is really about the technique. So as long as you understand how to make the dish, then you can make it and swap out as you need those particular ingredients that make sense to you and your household.
Yep, definitely. Whatever makes sense to you and makes it so that you do and have the variety and include those different foods. Of course, peaches are full of vitamins, minerals, different plant compounds. Potassium was one of the main ones, and when we talk about, and magnesium. So when we talk about staying hydrated, these will aid all of that. So it's a good idea to include them. It's my favorite fruit, like hands down, always has been. So I just like the flavor. And like with this recipe, it's kind of coupled with that almond extract. I think that goes together really well. And then with the chopped pecans, and like if you picked up the dessert, it was garnished with a glazed pecan. So that all flows pretty nicely together.
Oh, you got fancy, huh?
Yes. We always aim to be fancy.
Glazed pecans.
Glazed pecan, which just means they're coated in sugar, but it is a dessert. So we, wanted to make sure that it felt like an indulgence, and but it was an appropriate portion size, and the nutrition facts are included. It's about 310 calories per slice.
Well,
And so
I'm glad you said that, Lori, because we know, especially for what we do and trying to promote wellness and healthier eating. Of course, it's almost as if, oh, we can't have dessert. But I'm glad you just said that one, it's the correct portion size. And so it may be a little indulgent, the sugars and all that kind of stuff. But the key was, moderation and the correct portion size.
Yeah, that's what you have to kind of remember. Knowing that, like, the clinical definition of moderation is 2 times per month. So it's not like you can't have dessert, but it is a serving, every other week is how I kind of look at it. And hopefully that gives you that, leeway where if you have a celebration or there's something going on, a birthday, an anniversary party, some kind of get together where you definitely want to be able to partake, that gives you the opportunity, and you still stay in the clinical definition of moderation, and then hopefully there's no bad impact from that as far as your health goals.
Right. And I think that's what it all boils down to. Now I have a question for our participants, a little engagement here. I'm curious. We said that I'm from Columbus, Ohio, so I say pecans. Is it pecan or pecan?
I say pecan. What do you guys say? Ann, how do you say it? Pecan.
Pecan pie, yeah.
Pecan.
I have a question about the pits.
Okay.
Yes.
I find, and it looks like Jason has also found, that sometimes the pits split in half when you cut open a peach.
Yes.
Why is that? But sometimes they don't. So why is that?
Well, because out of the 4 that I just did, one of them did split. The other ones didn't.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody noticed, as I was slicing these, the easiest way to slice a peach, and I'm leaving the skin on because there's a lot of nutritional value in that. But I just went around, I took my knife around the peach and made slices. And then I was able to pull one out.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it's almost like a book opening. And so I just move one over, it comes right off. Move one over, comes right off. And you just keep doing that, and it's breaking right off of the pit.
Well, my experience is that that's great when it works, but a lot of times they cling to the pit so hard that you just squish them, and then you have to cut it out.
Yeah, then there's a little bit more work, like I just did on the first one that I cut here. The pit split, and so I had to kind of do a little extra work as far as cutting that pit out.
But your peaches don't look like they're ripe. I mean, they seem to be hard.
They are a little firm, because also, when you're even looking at them at the store, of course, the best way is feeling them, touching, and so. But the store, the Giant Eagle I went to, they were all about this ripeness.
We always buy them and then put them in a brown paper bag in the closet.
Yep, you can
for
always.
a day so they get ripe.
Yep, that is always ripen up a fruit a little bit more. Put them
When
in.
I was working, the lady was from, this is when I lived in New York. She was from the island, and she never ate a ripe peach. She ate it like it was an apple. And I said, that peach isn't ripe. And she says, that's why we get them at the store. I said, from the farm, I said, peaches don't eat like apples. I mean, when you take a bite, it should be running down your arm.
Right.
Exactly.
Has anybody ever gotten or purchased a load from the peach truck? that comes to Central Ohio?
I did once, yeah.
What did you
But
think?
I think it's mostly they sell it in large quantities and it
Yeah,
was
it's
too much.
huge quantities. That's the only reason I've never done it. I can't use 40 pounds of
What?
peaches.
I'd be happy to split it if somebody wanted to share it sometime.
Well,
I
yeah,
know, I mean, but I think it is, I'm not kidding when I say it's like 40. I thought it was 40 pounds. Is
yeah,
that?
I think it is.
That's right.
It's 40 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody from church got someone brought them to a potluck and they were really good. But it was
I've
just
heard
she and
they're
her
good.
son and they bought, as you said, 40 pounds of peaches and they must like peaches.
I should say that was intimidating to me.
They must have a huge farm too.
But they come every year, so.
Do they come from Georgia?
Somewhere like that.
I'm gonna look
They
it up.
do. I don't know if we can be sure.
Chef, I saw that you had your pie crust rolled up. Is this something that you made at home and just brought because of time consuming?
Yes, because if I sat here and tried to make that pie dough right here, we'd be here all day. Plus, once you originally make it and kind of roll it out, you need to refrigerate it for at least an hour so that everything can set and then bring it out. So it was just easier to pre-do it and follow. So I will let you guys know, Lori, you guys almost took me back with this. I almost quit culinary school because of pie dough. I would not be the chef that you guys know today, and it would have been pie dough's fault because second semester of culinary school was baking and pastries, and the first week was pie doughs, and my seat partner, she was already a baker. And so she was able to bang out pie doughs like it was nothing. Meanwhile, mine's is tearing and ripping and just a hot mess that I just got frustrated and told my chef, I'm done. I can't do this. Forget it. I'm out of here. But
Wow.
thank God that they talked me off the ledge. And until this came about, and I was just like, oh, here we are again. So I will say, it may not be the best, but it's going to work.
Well, the actual pies that I made, the crust was not good. It was way too dense. I mean, that whole wheat flour is just, I think it's just not, well, I mean, you know, I got to keep perspective. It's just not what I think about when I think of pastry dough.
Right.
It was different. Of course, it held together the custard, but it wasn't really.
It's very different.
And you can't roll it out thin when it's got that much fiber.
Yeah.
So, but you
You
know,
eat the pies for the filling, not the dough.
yeah, that's what we have to
You
say.
just need something to hold the filling together.
That's right.
Yeah,
It's like bagels. Bagels, the only reason you need a bagel is for the cream cheese.
there you go. That's right. That's the only reason I have turkey sandwiches is for the mayo.
So we got our pie dough done. We'll make our filling now. And so our filling, very simple. We have whole low-fat milk, and I'm using a 2% milk. And I add my cornstarch because the cornstarch will be the reactor to help cause this to come together. So with that cold milk, and whenever you're using cornstarch, you want to use a cold liquid to make what we call the slurry. And then once it's heated, then that causes it to react and then cause it to tighten up. Cornstarch, our sugar. And I know
Like a measure.
that was a cup.
Wow.
Yeah, this recipe is a little outside of our normal wheelhouse, that it had that much sugar. So
Yeah, I was shocked.
I know I somehow thought that maybe the mint fudge threw people over the edge month with no sweetness to it. So maybe this month we could be a little more indulgent. Yeah,
But this was to make up for it all.
right.
All right, and now I'm going to add 2 eggs, and now we're making a custard. Now this is what I would call the easy way to make a custard. You know, this isn't over the double boiler, and then slowly whisk in the eggs and temper the warm milk, all that kind of stuff. So this is the new version.
Right, doesn't it kind of feel like a pudding pie?
Yep.
A little bit different, and they called it custard, but it's really kind of pudding.
Yep.
But we won't split hairs.
All right, so we got that all in there. We're gonna put our wonderful sliced peaches right in the bottom and make whatever design. This is where you can have the kids involved, so you can make whatever kind of design there on the bottom. If you see the recipe, it says that they might float a little bit. These are fresh peaches, so we might not get too much. They might have and because they're not fully ripe, they may have a little bit of weight that they won't float in the custard mixture. But this is where you can get your Bob Ross on, and maybe in your world, your pie has a swirl, or
I do think by the time you pour your custard in, they're gonna get messed up to a certain degree. But that's, you know, I think it turns out pretty that way still.
right.
Some floating, some not.
Yeah, Just Pies makes a strawberry pie with a custard layer on the bottom and
Oh, yeah?
strawberries on top, and I bet it weighs 10 pounds.
Oh,
Really good.
yeah,
That's all that matters, right?
So is Just Pie still on High Street in Clintonville?
Yeah, it's down near a little bit north of Grayson, across the street where that tax prep place was.
Yeah,
near the
okay.
car
So,
wash.
yeah.
They moved down there. They used to be another half mile to the north.
Okay.
And I think they might have one in Westerville too.
You know what's funny is I was in a Wits frozen custard the other day, and
Uh-huh.
they had some of Just Pie's products in a case in their store.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Where's
So
Wits? Where's Wits at?
there, I was in
Short
West.
North? The one in
West
Short
North?
North?
Oh,
It
the one
was-
in Short North? Okay.
No,
'Cause
this
they used to be
was-
in Granville. Oh.
They still are. That was the
Okay.
original. They
Okay.
have a lot of branches now.
No,
Yeah,
okay.
they do. They have one up here in Sunbury, but I was actually in Westerville.
Mm-hmm.
I was just looking around because it said Wits and Just Pies, and I was like, "What? What's going on here?" So I had to investigate. I didn't buy anything.
It was
I like this
research.
story.
What's that?
It was research.
It was research, exactly. It was just research. Well, and there's a Grater's there too, and you can buy an ice cream pie at Grater's. Do you know how much they are?
$25,
$30.
30, okay.
Wow.
Wow.
They are expensive.
So
I
Jason, what did you just sprinkle on top of your peach slices?
Just a little bit of flour.
And-
It's supposed to go in and the only reason that is like when you have fruit, because that's going to create a lot of moisture. I put a little bit on the peaches so that it'll help soak up a lot of the moisture once they start cooking, especially because these were fresh. Once they
Yep.
start cooking, they're going to leak a lot of moisture.
Which means you have to leave it in the oven like forever. It feels like with all of that water. And then, you know, you have to build yourself some kind of shield for your crust so it doesn't burn.
Right. All right. So, voila. Yep, my peaches started to float.
Okay. They're making their own design, I'm sure.
All right. So we just poured that in there. Like I said, very simple custard. simple. You know, the biggest thing was making the crust. Of course, if you don't want to go through all that, I think they have already in the pan crust or so like that in the store. I don't know.
They sure do.
They do. We talked about that today. I don't think a homemade crust is that much better than the store-bought, and in my opinion, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But you can buy gluten-free pie crust shells. You can buy organic ingredients only in a pie. So you could explore what makes sense to you.
Right. So now we'll put this in the oven and kind of let it set up. And so we're going to do it at a higher heat because remember I said that cornstarch and that flour is in there. So that's what's going to cause everything to kind of set. And then we'll put it on a lower heat so that it can actually cook. Because it's going to be at that high heat first, your crust is going to cook up fast. And so when you take it out to turn it down to a lower heat, you want to take some foil or something like that to kind of put around the edges so you don't burn the edges of the pie. Like I would even, Lori, it's not part of the recipe, but I would like some cinnamon or something like that would sprinkle in here.
Maybe you could coat your pecans in cinnamon before you add them.
Yeah.
That would be good.
So our pie is in the oven. While that's cooking, I'll just have to call time so that I don't let it burn. About 30 minutes. And you guys will see, you guys have already tasted and seen. We'll take some of our other peaches. That'll be a nice evening snack.
Over
Too
vanilla
late.
ice cream.
Any questions? I mean, I think it'll be a great way, especially if you decide to go in together on that with the peach truck. Then you can another way to be able to utilize peaches. You know, you can make salsas with peaches. You can, you know, in a savory way, so it doesn't have to be. I've made a stone fruit salsa before with some peaches and cherries and things like that, and put it over some fish with some mint and basil and all those type of things, and put it over fish or chicken or something of that sort. So, you know, you have versatile with some of these seasonal ingredients. Any other questions about the pie? How did it taste, everyone?
It's great. It's going fast.
I could imagine. While our pie is in there, you know, I don't know if we mentioned, Lori, that the whole what we're doing this month is centered around eggs.
Right? I think Darlene mentioned it.
So the value of eggs, and you know, I think even eggs get a bad rap in the sense that people don't. I mean, we know they're a source of protein, but you know, I don't think they get really enough. And then, you know, these days you go in the egg aisle or the cooler, and there's 10 different types of eggs. There's cage-free, there's brown, there's white, there's I don't even know. There's all these types of eggs. So is there really a big difference when it comes to selecting eggs?
Not nutritionally and not like actual nutrient wise, they're all pretty similar. There's, you know, between 70 and 80 calories. There's about 117 to 120 milligrams of dietary cholesterol. You know, like Eggland's Best says that they're incorporating like an omega-3 in the feed, and so that they're a little bit healthier. I'm not sure we have a ton of research to substantiate that claim. Like, yeah, that might be true, but I don't know what it's doing for us as we consume them over time.
Right.
So I just try to land somewhere in the middle. I don't buy the $5 a dozen, but I also don't buy the $67 a dozen. I think having them be free range might be a little bit helpful, and that their diet is varied. And there is research around that, meaning the eggs have a little more nutrients in some areas. So you could kind of try to go.
So
Yeah.
free range and cage free, what really is the difference?
Well, I think the difference is, well, I actually should look it up for certainty, but I think that free range means that they get to roam and eat, bugs and things, but cage free can still be in a building, but just not in a cage. Right. So sometimes they go together and sometimes they don't. They're like levels, just like it is for everything else, as far as the marketing and the way you can label. There are levels of what they think is best for the animal and thus the product that the animal produces.
So Lori, I did look it up, and it says the main difference between cage-free and free-range eggs is that the latter comes from hens that, in addition to the extra space that cage-free birds have, can also access some form of outside area. However, there are no uniform standards regarding how long they are outside for or what the outside space is like.
Yeah, they might just run them through a little breezeway. Call that candy, and then you call that free range. I know. I mean, so like,
I was going to say, so they're really, to be honest, then if you look at it, a free range is technically a cage free that may just have a little bit more room
Space.
yeah, yeah. But hopefully what it means is that they're out somewhere where they can eat a natural, like they're going to source a natural set of nutrients through the bugs that they're going to have access to just being outside. But I don't know. I mean, it depends on how big your system is, I mean, and how many chickens are in that same space, and is there anything left? And
Well, pre-COVID, I used to volunteer at McConnell in the cafe, McConnell Health Club. And the chef then, this was a couple years ago, he said he had a brunch for the family one time, and they used the cage-free eggs. And he said he thought they tasted so much better, he's never used regular eggs again. So that was his opinion. He was a chef, so probably had knew more about it than we did.
Yeah, well, definitely maybe a little more discerning palate.
Yeah.
My son actually has 9 chickens, and I can't eat eggs, but they look different. Their yolks.
The yolk is a little darker.
Yeah.
The yolks are a little darker, and kind of have a little bit more uniformity to it. So I don't know if that equates to flavor. I mean, I have definitely had both. So yeah, they do have a better taste to them.
And they don't run all over the pan, like they're less watery.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
They kind of hold their shape better, and the yolk stands up taller, and it's a darker yellowy goldish, almost orange.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
And that's the cage free or the free range?
I don't remember.
Well, what I'm kind of referring to is the actual fresh eggs from my son's pen. Their dad lives on 5 acres and they have 9 chickens.
Wow.
And so we have fresh eggs in the house all the time, and they're different. They are definitely different than store-bought.
And you can't eat.
I'm sorry.
And you can't eat them. Are you allergic?
Yes. It's awful. I have a hard time frying them making French toast and stuff. Like, it's really hard.
Oh man, that sucks.
Yeah.
You can't have French toast?
No, but I mean, there are worse things. So I should.
Yeah.
I don't know if there is, because you can't have French.
Yeah, I know. I sound like I feel like a baby whining about that. So I should.
I love French toast, so.
It is a nice, because it's like that extra protein. It makes you feel like it's, kind of balanced. I think I remember the days. It was a nice breakfast.
So I with our next recipe, I've wilted down, and everybody knows you could take. I just had a whole bunch of spinach, and it cooked down to a cup. So just enough for both of these. And this next recipe is what we call a Turkish pizza. And there's a lot of different ways you can go with this, and we call it the Turkish pizza, but you can ultimately add or, create this in whatever way necessary for you. And you can add some things. We just have the spinach, and then we'll drop the egg down in it. Almost what do they call that? Frog eyes, where you kind of have it in the center of toast or so. So this is almost like a play on that, but we're using a pita. And all I did is I took the pita, and it was a whole pita, whole wheat pita, and it was a whole pita. And I just took it and took my knife. If you have a bread knife or a serrated knife, that's probably the best. And I just really cut through it so that I can have now two halves, a top and a bottom half. And so that's what I have on my sheet here, my baking sheet, is those two halves of the pita. And then we'll put our spinach in there. If you want to add like garlic, if you want to add some roasted peppers, mushrooms, anything like that, you can make this really kind of however you want to add some different flavor balances. Using some red peppers, you're adding some vitamin C to this. And so it wouldn't hurt to add any other type of vegetables to this. It'd be really good. And it'd be something different, even with kids. This would be a different kind of cool take on a breakfast pizza per se.
Yeah, that's what I thought. When I picked this recipe, or when I noticed it, I really thought, how nice. It's such a quick, easy, balanced sandwich, really, like an open face, ready to go.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is one of the biggest redeeming qualities about eggs, is how quickly they cook, and they're complete protein. So.
And they're versatile. I mean, and to be honest, it can be quite filling. And all I did was add a little olive oil to this because we want that to kind of crisp up. So we add that. Now we'll take our spinach. I want to add enough to where I can create like a little well that our egg will kind of sit down in.
Yeah, and I agree, Chef. Like, you could add anything here: onion, pepper, zucchini, yellow squash. You could do anything with that sauteed spinach to amp up your veggie intake.
And, to add some color, to add some depth, some visual appeal, and of course, adding nutrients. So we got that there. We got a little well. And the way I'm going to do this is I wouldn't just crack my egg right over top of it. The best way to do it is to crack it kind of in the bowl first, and then kind of slide it over into, because you can kind of now control it.
Yeah. And you don't have to say, oh, where'd that shell go?
Oh, well, unless your whole egg literally slides right off of your...
It happens.
Run the tape back. That was a blooper.
Bloopers. I loved that show.
All right. I got it back in the center.
Good.
Let's try this again. And I wish you guys could see these, because these are like cage free. And so they're really the yolks, like you were saying, Lori, they are not kind of runny. They're more uniform. They kind of sit up nice and plump, and they're like a orange, golden orange color.
I do find that more appetizing than like the pale yellow and the red.
Lori, I know that sometimes nutrients might change a little bit for the vegetables if they're eaten raw versus cooked. Is spinach one of those vegetables, or do the nutrients not change through heating of them?
The main one is tomato, and that the lycopene is a little more accessible when it's cooked. Spinach, the main nutrient that people talk and kind of are concerned around with spinach is oxalates, because that can contribute to kidney stones for a lot of people. It's a very common type of kidney stone, and that stays consistent. So no big change with the cooking. You know what, there might be something, let me look. There might be something that's a little more accessible with the heat, especially if it's with an oil. I feel like I'm remembering something. Let me look that up. Spinach. So raw versus cooked. Chef, do you know anything on that?
I am not familiar. All right, now we're going to stick this in here.
Oh, okay. So I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt you. So you'll absorb more of the calcium and iron if you eat it cooked. And that has to do with spinach being loaded with oxalic acid, which blocks the absorption of iron and calcium, but breaks down under high temperatures. So that would mean that there would be less potential for the oxalate to be harmful if it was cooked. I always heard that that was consistent. That's Consumer Reports. So do we trust them?
In my non-dietary medical background, I say yes.
Okay. Let's see what someone else says. So healthyeating.com says sauteed spinach is a nutritious, versatile food that goes well with protein sources. Although spinach contains more nutrients raw, a cup of sauteed spinach is more highly concentrated than raw spinach, giving you more nutrients per bite, which is so true. I mean, it really comes down into such a small bulk of food once it's cooked. So,
Interesting.
okay, so it says the good news is that oxalic acid is broken down upon heating. So there's no loss of nutrients in steamed or sauteed spinach. Both fresh and cooked contain about the same amount of macronutrients. But that's 3 1/3 cups of raw equals 1/2 cup of cooked. So that's a big difference there. But if you've had problems with kidney stones, you should definitely cook your spinach, no doubt.
That's good to know.
Yep.
Well, my son has had kidney stones and he was told not to eat spinach.
Yeah, they do across the board. If you catch that stone and you know that it's a calcium oxalate, they will say no oxalic acid sources, and spinach is one of the big ones.
Yeah.
And once you've had a kidney stone, you say, yes, ma'am, or yes, sir. If you don't want it, you will say, I will not put myself at risk at all.
Yeah.
Okay, chef, I'm sorry. We kind of got sidetracked there. Did you put the Turkish pizza in the oven?
Yes, I've put it in the oven at 400, I think 400, which is good because my pie is still in there. So I just checked it. It's getting there. So we'll turn it down. So in the meanwhile, my eggs will be done by time. So my eggs will be done around the same time as the pie will be ready to put the pecans on and lower the heat.
Yep.
So while both of those are in there, we'll with our last recipe. I love this recipe. We call it a Huevos Rancheros, but you may also hear of a oh God, I don't know why I literally just escaped my mind, but it's an Indian.
Eggs in hell? Is it?
Yeah, but it's an Indian dish. It's a spicy tomato sauce with the eggs in it, and I don't know why. Literally, it was just on the top of my head.
Okay.
It'll come back here in a second. Kind of the same concept that you can have. So this is something different that you can, as a breakfast idea, what you could do with your eggs. You can get away from the omelet or just an over medium. Well, I'm an over medium egg kind of person, or scramble. But this is just something different, while also introducing some other nutrients. We're adding some other protein with black beans. We have a nice salsa, whether you make your own or whether you get a really nice jarred salsa. But something really nice and a nice fulfilling, and it's great with guests. you know, makes them feel like you really went all out for them.
Yeah, the
For a
presentation.
nice brunch.
Yeah. Is it shakshuka?
Yes,
Shakshuka.
yes. I was just like, why did that just, because in my head, I have shawarma that's in my head. And I was like, no, get that out of there. So
It's SHAKSHUKA. I think that's, you say that shakshuka, and that's like
shakshuka.
Indian
Yes.
style recipe for a curry sauce, eggs in a curry sauce, which
Yep.
is kind of where we're headed with this Huevos Rancheros.
But in a Mexican Latin way. So right there, you're able to see, in a sense, the same dish, but by different cultures, you have these different flavor profiles. So that allows you to see the way that you can switch this up, you can change it. Same concept, just adding some different spices and different ingredients. You have almost a totally different dish. Because they're both tomato based. The Indian one is tomato based, but with a nice curry flavor to it, you know, still adding some cilantro and some things of that nature. This one, we're going to add some black beans, which we'll add to our pan. I made sure I drained those because you don't like that dark liquid that comes in a can of black beans. So I make sure I drain and rinse those. So you're able to just get those really nice black beans. And then our salsa. And literally you're gonna mix that up so it can all come together. Once again, if you want to add some other vegetables to this, why not? I mean, your salsa has some peppers, probably some peppers, onions, some type of chilies or something like that. If you wanted to add some kale, chop some kale.
That would be great. Yeah.
It would create some great flavor. I mean, great nutrients, but then great color. You can mix that in here with that and really give you some depth in the. Come to a simmer, let it kind of warm up, and then we're going to add, just like we did our Turkish pizzas, we're going to add our eggs to that, and then we'll stick it in. We'll cover it just to let those eggs kind of come to it. And once again, you see that I took my eggs, already cracked them to the bowl so that you have the more control of them while adding them to your dish.
Which this dish, I feel, is really packed with protein. It should be very stabilizing between the black beans and the eggs, you know, let alone the non-starchy vegetables and the salsa. But when that comes together, it should be very satisfying and hopefully feel like a complete meal for people in one dish, which I very much appreciate.
But of course,
right? That's an easier cleanup, and that's always a good thing.
And that's the big thing is this is a one pan breakfast. You know, have some tortillas or so, or if you were doing the shakshuka with the curry base, you know, have some naan or so on the side. They actually now have whole wheat naan. So you don't have to feel bad about it, but a whole breakfast, and it took no time, and you only dirtied one pan.
And the presentation is very nice. It's pretty. It looks complex as far as culinary skill wise, but pretty easy. One thing that I think is pretty amazing is that chef can have the Turkish pizza get done right when the oven needs to be turned down for the pie. So in my kitchen, that would never happen that way. I would need 3 different ovens to accomplish this.
So my custard is set. We're just going to sprinkle some of our nuts, and I like that Lori glazed her pecans.
It was kind of a little bit sugary, however,
We'll
it was a nice flavor.
add our pecans there, and then we will turn our oven down.
So Of the Turkish pizza and the Huevos Rancheros, which do you guys think you would be more likely to prepare? If you were doing an egg dish? Anybody? Neither?
Neither?
All right, maybe you got to see finished product before you can decide.
They're gonna be just like you'd see a naked muffin.
So I took a spoon and I made a little well in my,
Can't hear him.
It's not talking.
He is.
Chef, I think we may have lost you audio wise. Maybe not.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And I just put brand new batteries that we charged.
Let's
you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. You're back.
So I was saying that I took a spoon and I just created little wells in my sauce, and I took my egg bowl and just put those down in there. And now I turn my burner down, and you just cover it with a lid just enough for that to, we don't have a lid large enough, so it's called You Make It Work by inverting another pan, and you automatically create a steam cooking vessel. Yep.
There you go.
Now, so that's going to cook our egg to like an over easy. Just enough for the whites to solidify, and you have a nice soft yolk. Of course, if you're not a over easy soft yolk person, you can let it cook a little bit longer. But it's that simple of a nice breakfast meal per se that you can have. And like Lori said, the presentation, because what you can do is you could serve it right in that pan. So I think that's the amazing thing, is you could serve it right in that pan. Put you a nice cloth down on the table, bring the pan over, have, like we said, either some naan or some whole wheat tortillas, and then, some things on the side, if you're going the Mexican Latin way, maybe you have some fresh jalapenos sliced over on the side, or maybe some fresh tomatoes or so like that. I think will be great, even though it's a tomato sauce. Some sour cream, some avocado would be great, that you can then just go from there.
Or maybe green onion too.
Yeah.
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 That'd be
So
good.
we're going to finish ours with some cilantro. We have some tortillas and things of that nature. Turkish eggs, Turkish pizzas. Ooh. Show you guys.
Yeah, that looks awesome.
So really easy. And I think this would be cool for kids. Maybe I'll try it on mine.
Yeah.
And, a little salt and pepper over there. Let's put it on. Let's garnish. Let's see, in my world, how would I present this? Let's see here.
Has anybody done their eggs like this? Like have them in the oven on top of either like an English muffin or just a whole wheat piece of bread? Does anybody do their eggs kind of similar to this Turkish pizza? No? You think you'll try it now? It's super easy. No, no. When Nola's like, no, and
I don't like half done eggs.
oh
Or
no,
eggs.
you do not like eggs?
I have to have them scrambled. But I
Okay.
wanted to say, I notice when I get caged eggs or organic eggs or something, brown eggs, why is it I quit eating them because when I get them to crack them, I always found a little speck of something inside the egg, and that turned me off.
Yeah.
It was either red or a creamy.
Yep, the
color.
red speckle.
Why is that?
I don't even want to tell you what that is.
Right.
Even with my eggs, I like scrambled eggs, but I'm gonna tell you, I get regular eggs and I separate the little white string that's in there. I take them off. I cannot eat my eggs without taking them off. I notice people just crack them, and no, I can't do that.
Right. To each his own, right?
Yes. Now,
Like-
if I boil them, I don't even think about it, but it's just,
Mhm.
cooking them up like that.
Right. So I think in the egg yolk, now they're saying that a blood spot or droplets of blood, sometimes found on the surface of egg yolks, egg producers consider them a defect, but the spots are form naturally during the egg laying cycle in some hens.
Yes. That's why I said I didn't want to tell you what it was.
Okay. That is
Yes,
not what I thought it was. I thought it was like, if it was, I don't even really know what I thought it was. It says on the spot, it does not indicate that an egg has been fertilized. That's what I thought. That's funny, but it says no, that is not it. And a bright spot indicates a very fresh egg.
Mm.
So maybe you should make friends with the blood spot. Winona.
Maybe I just need to quit eating them, but unless they're cooked up in something. Now that I think about it, it looks beautiful. It does
Oh,
look
wow,
good.
that looks pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And all I did, I took a little fresh mint and put that and chiffonade that on there, a little feta cheese. And, we got a little lemon on there so you can brighten up the whole dish with a little bit of lemon. So give it that Turkish. I would also add a little alopepo. So if I had some, I would alopepo. Alopepo is a Turkish type of chili that you could put on there.
Nice.
Let's see.
And steam. So our Huevos Rancheros done. So we'll do a rough chop on some cilantro. Boop, 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 boop. That's the
Now-
rough chop sound.
Okay. And I think that like traditionally you'd find some chorizo in this dish.
Yes, you would, and I definitely would.
Oh, but we are trying to avoid processed meats. So we think you will enjoy it very much with no chorizo.
I know where to get some chicken chorizo.
Really?
Yes. I'll tell you off the camera.
Yeah, doesn't that look cool? That looks awesome.
That
be
would
delicious.
probably be a recipe I'd be willing to try.
Yeah, Darlene, that would be super low carb and very filling. I think everybody would enjoy that. And it's easy, really. Like if you a can of black beans and some salsa and some eggs, if at its very least, that would come together and be all of the major players in that dish.
And definitely high protein. I'm looking at the recipe card and it's one serving is 14 grams of protein, and that's probably the egg and the beans combined.
Yep. One egg, one medium-sized egg is usually 7 grams of protein. So definitely the beans are coming into play there.
Yep, voila.
Good job, chef.
Now, let me guys show you by the magic of TV. You guys got to taste it, but by the magic of TV, our wonderful pie.
There it is. Okay.
And Lori, you did an awesome job.
Oh, thank you.
Yes,
I know the crust was not good, but I think the filling was tasty.
I didn't have a problem with the crust. I thought it was, it was a little dense. denser
It
than
sure
a
was.
normal one, but
Well, and I tried to say the higher the fiber, the better in my mind, because the rest had, the filling had so much sugar. So I wanted that to not be as prominent. Like I didn't want any refined flour in the crust, but man, it made it dense.
Do you always take your pie out of the pie pan?
No, that is one that I brought in earlier, and I had borrowed pie pans, so I had to return them. So I took it out, and it worked pretty well for display purposes.
I was going to say, it really does look really nice out of the pan.
Yeah, it looks more like a tart.
Yeah.
Any recipes you've done here today or about eggs? Here's 3 different recipes, very simple, that we used eggs. And so 3 different applications of eggs per se that you can add to your repertoire of dishes that you can easily make at home. And that's what we're really all about, is being able to create things that you can make right at home. Try these out. I mean, maybe this weekend, Saturday, at least try out the Ranchos, the Huevos Rancheros as your breakfast for Saturday morning. Or maybe the kids, you may want to make the Turkish, and maybe it doesn't have to be Turkish. Maybe just start off with the pita and the spinach and maybe some other vegetables and putting that egg there in the center. And if you're a person who likes your egg cooked through, then you just, at a lower temperature, just make sure your egg is cooked through and then add some things. A nice fresh pico would be great on there. So you can definitely do a lot with even the Turkish pizza. Or we'll call it the breakfast pizza.
I agree. I think those are all good tips and suggestions.
well, thank you so very much, Chef Jason and Lori. We greatly appreciate you sharing these recipes with us, and definitely appreciate being able to taste the pie. I know we're all looking forward to when we're eventually back in person and we get to taste the things that Jason makes as well. So any last questions or comments before we sign off for the night?
No, I appreciate everything, but I might try the one with the beans in it. That looks pretty good, but I'll make sure I some kind of way can get my egg well done.
well, this is let me give you a little, because once you put the beans and the salsa in there and kind of let it warm through, because that's all you're really doing, the beans and the salsa. It's not like you're cooking them. They're just warming them through. Once they've warmed through and you make those little wells for your eggs and sit those in there. If you put that and cover it with a lid, you won't have any problem. Turn it down low because it'll cook up really quickly. And your eggs, if you want them a little runny, then you just know you uncover them and serve them quicker. If you want them to be done, all the way done, well done, then you're just going to keep them, but turn it down real low, because what happened is you don't want it to heat up even to a medium, because you're going to end up scorching the tomato sauce or the beans and things. Once you put that lid on there, you're creating a steam effect. So those eggs will automatically, with that residual heat, they'll automatically start cooking through.
Okay.
Good advice.
Yes, it looks good. Definitely. Everything does.
Good. You're going to get tons of protein, tons of iron,
Mhm.
Lots of fiber. We always talk about fiber and how we want to up that, but that dish is really nice for non-starchy vegetables, complete protein and fiber.
And then if you add avocado, if you add a couple slices of avocado to it, then you got some healthy fat.
Mhm.
A nice complete dish.
So we were talking earlier about having two different chefs or two different, a chef and a non-chef person. So Jason, put a hot pad down, bring your pie over, and put it beside Lawrence.
Well,
Oh,
the non-chefs looks way better than mine. Because me and pies, we have a bad rap. So this is why baking is not my forte.
That was just a little feed-in, guys, for our chef's challenge. I'm actually going to be making the same meat or using the same secret ingredients that Chef Jason is. So when I said a non-chef, I was actually referencing me. So, so hopefully you'll be able to join us on the 4th Thursday of the month to, and I already said, you know, I'm not a chef, I'm a social worker. So it'd be very interesting to see what kind of dish I create out of the same ingredients that chef creates.
That'll be great. That takes a lot of courage, Darlene. I'm proud of you.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun. And and I'll be honest, you never know what really in the spur of the moment, what comes to mind, and you just go with it. I mean, to me, cooking shouldn't be a task. It should be a passion, and it should come from the heart. And so you go with your instincts. And usually if you go with your instincts, especially if you like to cook, that usually is your best dish. So
that's a perfect way to end the recording. So we don't have to sign off, but I want to publicly thank again Lori and Chef Jason for their time in the class tonight.
Thank you.
thank you. Thank
Appreciate it.
everyone for joining us.